as it pertains to college football, my goodness, this is happening so fast that USC and UCLA moving to the Big Ten. Okay, that's old news. We've covered that. Check out the previous shows, the previous live streams. They're all out there for you to check out. Matt and I diving into that. That seems like it was about 3 years ago. What was that, last Friday?
Boring.
Okay, that's done. Those are long-standing members of the Big Ten by now.
Yeah, exactly.
At this point.
Exactly.
So what else is going to happen with the Pac-12? So that's the question. Who is the Big Ten looking at? Washington, Oregon, of course, is the first news that came out in regards to their supposed applied membership to the Big Ten. And then who else would be possibly attractive to the Big Ten? Could that be Stanford? Could that be Utah? And then, of course, the Big 12 trying to keep up, even though there's a large gap with the Big Ten and the SEC, eyeing Utah and Colorado and Arizona State. And then flipping the map to the East Coast and looking at the ACC, who could possibly get picked apart there by the SEC, looking at a Clemson, Florida State, Miami versus the Big Ten, most notably looking at Virginia and North Carolina because they fit the institutional criteria a little bit better. So where do we go with this? Let's stay in USC's camp and by extension the Pac-12, even though they're not a member of the Pac-12 anymore, and the sustainability of the Pac-12. Where do you think we stand there?
Well, where do we stand? I mean, it's just a totally uncertain state of play. Like, so I felt when we recorded our live show right after, just like 2 hours after USC to the Big Ten was announced on Thursday, Mark, I thought that, okay, Notre Dame's not joining the conference. Oregon and Washington are slam dunks to join the Big Ten. I had a few other things that I thought were extremely likely to happen. Right now, I know I'm like Sergeant Schultz on Hogan's Heroes. I know nothing, absolutely nothing. And it's just better that I don't make any more predictions because it's just all in the air. It's all jump balls right now. And so there's a wave of fresh reporting for people who are just tuning in here to the Voice of College Football on Tuesday afternoon. If you've been, at work, you have been missed what's going on. There's been some big stories broken in the past 3 hours by the two super journalists in the Pac-12, John Wilner of the Wilner Hotline, the San Jose Mercury News based in the Bay Area, John Canzano, the Portland-based reporter, columnist, and radio talk show host, who's like the Oregon insider, but they both follow the Pac-12 really well. So what Wilner broke, he talked to some insiders who, when presented with the topic, they did not shoot down the idea of a Pac-12 ACC mega merger. The source told Wilner the presidents in each league would, quote, love to be academically aligned, unquote, with the other. So like that's giving it legs. That's giving it some oxygen. Doesn't mean it's likely. Doesn't mean it's probable. Doesn't mean that negotiations are already underway. It just means like that's in the air. Like, and there's an awareness that the presidents of those schools with their academics, like you think like of North Carolina and Duke with Stanford and Cal, like I think that's what the source is getting at. So that's reportage and industry insiders talking to John Wilner. And now as for John Canzano's reportage, he's broken two items. One, he reports that Phil Knight of Oregon is interested in making a run at the SEC, not just the Big Ten, that Oregon is considering both the SEC and the Big Ten. So that's one thing from John Canzano over in Portland. And the other thing that Canzano reported is that he talked to a highly placed source, at a member of the Four Corner Quartet. That's the Arizona schools, Utah, Colorado, rumored to be in talks with the Big 12. That highly placed source told Canzano there's no meeting on the books for us, any of these four schools, with the Big 12. That's a direct quote. No meeting on the books for us from those four Pac-12 schools with the Big 12. And that source also said George Kliavkoff is kicking ass in behind the scenes negotiations. So a lot of fresh reporting, a lot of juicy rumors flying all around. And so it's a very uncertain state of play. And I think, I'll admit, like we have to admit when we're wrong in the sports journalism business. So I was wrong in thinking that Oregon to the Big Ten was a slam dunk, Oregon and Washington, I should say. And one eye-popping detail from the weekend and the coverage that we've been providing at Trojans Wire, John Wilner, John Canzano, I'm getting the two Johns mixed up. John Canzano talked to a former Fox Sports executive who estimated that in terms of media rights value, Stanford was worth $45 million per year, and Oregon was worth 30. I doubt anyone listening here to the Voice of College Football watching this show would have come up with Stanford being worth 15 million more than Oregon. Where does that come from? Like, is it, I mean, is that just because of Stanford's academic prestige as a university? Is the Bay Area that much more significant than like the Eugene, Portland I-5 corridor? I'm not really sure where that valuation comes from, but a former Fox Sports executive came up with that. And, Fox Sports is aligned with the Big Ten, and, that is, the party, the network that is considering Oregon for Big Ten membership. And, so USC and UCLA quickly put into the fold, quickly brought into the Big Ten family. So obviously the people at Fox and the people at the Big Ten, saw tremendous value and tremendous upside in that. So obviously if they moved that quickly for USC and UCLA, well, why haven't they moved as quickly for Oregon and Washington? Well, what the former Fox executive said about Stanford being worth 15 million more per year than Oregon, well, there you go. Now, I don't understand that. I won't claim I do. But that is part of the behind the scenes chatter, that Oregon really is not moving the needle as much in terms of media rights value as a lot of us out here, who aren't in the back channels, who aren't in the boardrooms where things actually get hammered out, think about it. But the countervailing point, and one of the reasons why I did think a few days ago that Oregon and Washington, the Big Ten, was a slam dunk, is that you need travel partners for USC and UCLA. You need to give the Big Ten more geographical balance so that you're not just having 2 schools traveling to the whole of the Midwest. You're having 4 schools do that. And conversely, you have the Midwestern Big Ten schools traveling to 4 schools, not 2. They're going up and down the West Coast. You can get some geographical scheduling. Like you can put the 4 Western schools, the 4 West Coast schools into like a pod, a smaller grouping, and the Big Ten could put its larger conference framework of 20 teams, maybe 24 teams, into more narrow regionalized groupings to cut down on travel costs and cut down on the travel demands being placed upon athletes. But the media rights equation is working against that, and it's making a lot of people reconsider the state of play. So I thought I knew a lot more than I did last Thursday. Right now, it is just all up in the air. And the added reportage from earlier on Tuesday about a Pac-12 ACC merger, about the 4 Corners schools not talking with the Big 12 just yet, and about Oregon maybe pursuing the SEC. It's just a free-for-all right now. I think that's the most responsible way to view the whole landscape at this point.